What does ALM look like, especially in this new world that we are with AI
In
agents and stuff?
in the new world we are, it doesn't mean we get to discard the previous ALM principles that we've used. It only means we get to ask ourselves the question, how can we make this better?
Right.
Because just before, and I like the fact that even the agents we are building now has to be in a solution,
Okay.
because it can be easy for us to say, let's just abandon it because some people never actually loved following the ALM principles. But I think if we even know the benefit of the reason why we follow the ALM life
Yeah.
cycle, it makes it easy for us to see the benefit it will also grow in the world of AI. So in this age of AI doesn't mean we get to discard it. It means we get to ask ourselves the question, how can I make it better? How can I
Mm,
optimize it? How can I utilize it? So I
mm,
think the world of ALM should still continue. We should think of how
mm.
to make it better, how to optimize it, and we should not abandon it. We should continue to obey the best practice. Because I
Yeah.
feel like in the course of development, we always feel like, let me just skip it. I feel like it will always come back to bite you. In the world of development, it's so easy for us to skip a stage because every stage seems like, oh, it's just an extra work. But I think those extra work that we see now
Yeah.
is a buffer to make sure things run smoothly. And so even in the world of AI, following this ALM principle makes sure that the AI agent that we are deploying is the best. We're able to optimize the process to deliver optimal results every time.
That's really good. ALM is still ALM. And it's interesting how in the low code space it's easy to ignore ALM. It's easy to feel like ALM is not that important because you can
Yes,
always access your stuff easily. But especially once you start going to production, once you start making updates, you realize the actual value of good
actual
ALM.
value. Yes.
It's quite interesting because we have different flavors of Copilot and Copilot Studio anyway, because you have the Copilot Studio Lite, which you can build within Teams and within M365 basically. I think one thing I'm looking forward to is more ALM around that
Yes.
because within my team we've had this conversation, and the fact is there are some agents that do not need to be a Copilot Studio agent. There's some agents that are happy being Copilot Studio Lite agents that you build in
Yes.
Microsoft Teams. But we don't want a case where it's now because of proper ALM, you now have to make it a Copilot Studio agent. So I think that's one thing I'm looking out for in
Yeah.
the pipeline, for more ALM to be available to agents that you build within Microsoft Teams, because those agents are really good. And funny enough, there's some updates that comes to those ones even before the Copilot Studio agent. So I've interacted with people and they're like, the agents I build in Teams are way better than my Copilot Studio agent, right? So there's some disparity in the underlying technology. I know I've had conversations with the product team where they've talked about, they've acknowledged the difference and talked about how they're trying to move things forward on the Copilot Studio side. But I'm really looking forward to more ALM on the Copilot Studio Lite agent. I don't know if you have any experience with Copilot Studio Lite agents.
So I necessarily don't play around with the Copilot Studio Light agent like you
Yeah,
mentioned. I go deep into the main one. That's the one I actually focus on. So I don't necessarily use the light, but I
yeah,
use the regular Copilot that's available on Microsoft 365 chat or the agent that I give my knowledge base and
yeah.
connect to different knowledge source. Off the back of that, since we're still on ALM, can you
Yeah.
please share your biggest ALM mistake and what did you learn from that?
ALM mistakes. I think they're probably gonna be everywhere because
Oh,
because we've all been on different stages in this journey, right? But I'll say ALM mistake. I'll say making updates in production. I feel like that's like a big mistake. What we've realized is a good model is, and you figure that even in the pro code world, they follow releases, right? Even Microsoft, they
yeah,
follow release. That's why you see they can schedule release notes ahead of time
yeah,
because they follow releases, right? But in the low code world, because we have the keys to the kingdom, a lot of times we just feel like, oh, let's just push this update now. Let's just do this now, or let's just edit it straight away rather than having a proper plan in place. I feel like those are ALM mistakes. And I'll say another ALM mistake is not keeping track of release notes. That's when you're like, oh, well, I think we deployed to production last week. What were the updates that went to production? I don't know. You understand? But if you're not tracking those things properly, then you can't tell a good story to your client. So I feel like those are two big ALM mistakes that we should watch out for. And I'll say they are very common mistakes everywhere.
And just to add a little bit of something to that is that off the back of you talking about deployment note, we also of release notes, we also need deployment notes so that
Right.
anybody that wants to pick up a solution that you built and deploy it has information about that solution. Because it might be
Yes.
something very little you did. You might have added a new column and
Yeah.
nobody would know. They'll keep on deploying the solution and it will fail. You might have renamed something. So I worked with a team once whereby when you do any minute change to a solution, when you are done with the solution, at the Azure DevOps um, work item, there's a section where you put deployment steps. So you'd
Yeah.
explain to successfully deploy the solution,
Oh, that's
what are the
perfect.
things you should do. So you put
Yeah.
the column name, if you created 5 column, what they will be called. And also you even go back to say what is the SharePoint logical
Yeah.
name behind it because the name it is called might be different from the share. So I really
Exactly.
like that. So anybody can pick up any solution.
Yeah.
So and it
Yeah.
became something I got used to. So when I'm deploying
Yeah.
any solution, having that
Yeah.
mindset that, oh, if somebody wants to pick it up, what should they do? Because I
Hmm.
think if we are not moving solution and you're not there anymore, or someone else is picking it up for something happens, they would not really know and they would struggle. Deploying the solution will keep on failing, not knowing
Yeah.
that they're just missing something very minute.
That's good. I think solutions is another conversation on its own. And we'll probably have some conversations around best practice in terms of solution. But
Yes.
even stuff like environment variables now,
Ooh.
they are deploying to an environment and you just see names and you're like,
What is
what
this?
is
So
what do
where do
I
I
do
start?
here? Especially when you're not even when it's not a dataverse solution. If it's dataverse, that's fine. You don't really mess with environment variables. But say it's SharePoint and there's different sites, different lists, and you don't even know what is what, right? That's good. Having like deployment notes. Initially, when you said deployment notes, I was like, oh, is that not the same thing as release notes? But I see the value in that. That's a good point. So let me ask you this in terms of data sources.